All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Business Masters Live interview. Today's interview is sponsored by David Meerman Scott's book, Fanocracy, Turning Fans into Customers and Customers into Fans, helping businesses with understanding fan culture. There it is right there. And how we can really use cultivating fans to grow our businesses and other wonderful, important online marketing topics. Check out David Meerman's book, Fanocracy, for more. And I have a long introduction about David, but I want to jump into the good stuff. But if you're not aware, David Meerman Scott helps companies and organizations all over the world generate more attention and grow their business. And he's now, I believe, author of 11 books. He's got his most recent, Before Fanocracy, I believe it's in its 6th publication in 29 languages. He's a keynote address speaker in 40 countries on every continent, every country on every continent. So rather than get any more long-winded than that, please help me welcome David Meerman Scott. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you sharing your time and wisdom.
Oh, yeah, of course. Happy to be here, Martin. Thanks for having me on.
All right, so let's jump right in it. I have a few questions just about your background first, so that our audience can understand where you came from and how you got to where you are today. Could you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself in terms of background, education, experience in the business world that eventually had you arrive at Fanocracy?
Sure. I've been to 804 live music concerts. And the last one, unfortunately, was March 2nd of 2020 because COVID shut everything down. 40 years ago tonight, September 23rd, 1980, I was a 19-year-old. And I was the only person to shoot photographs at Bob Marley's last concert.
Wow.
Those photographs have become historic. They are really important photographs. And today is an important day for me and for Bob Marley. A bunch of articles and whatnot came out about that concert today. And maybe we can link to it at some point. So I'm really excited about that. And you know, the idea that I'm a huge live music fan, I've seen 75 Grateful Dead concerts. I have a spreadsheet of all of the concerts I've seen, really informed my work in business, because I recognize that that we become fans of something. And when we become fans of something, that's super important. Fandom transcends money and geography and age and gender. It's a remarkable thing. And for the last decade, I've been giving a lot of thought to the idea of how fandom is a tool for business and how any organization can build fans. But to answer the other part of your question, after I got out of college, I thought I wanted to be a bond trader. I worked on Wall Street for a few years. I hated it. I was terrible at it. But what I recognized that I liked was the information that the bond traders used. So I drifted into the real-time financial information business, worked for companies like Dow Jones and Reuters for the early part of my career. I was based for 10 years in Asia, both Tokyo for 7 years, Hong Kong for 2. My wife is Japanese. And then worked for about 6 more years in the Boston area before I started my own business, started writing and speaking about marketing 18 years ago. So I like to say I've been unemployed for nearly 2 decades.
That's awesome. And this book, speaking of your family, you actually co-wrote. You had a special co-writer on this one.
Yeah, I wrote it with my daughter, Reiko. She's now 27 years old. And Reiko and I had the same ideas about fandom. She's a huge Harry Potter fan. Not only has she read every book and seen every movie multiple times, but she wrote an 85,000-word alternative ending to the Harry Potter series where Draco Malfoy is a spy for the Order of the Phoenix, and put that on a fan fiction site. It's been downloaded thousands and thousands and thousands of times. And I felt like it was really important to work with Reiko because I just gave you my age. I was 19 years old at Bob Marley's concert 40 years ago today. So I'm 59 years old. I'm a a very late baby boomer white man. My daughter Reiko, a half Japanese millennial woman. She's also a scientist. She did an undergraduate degree in neuroscience at Columbia and is now an emergency department doctor at Boston Medical Center. So we came at this idea of fandom from the idea that we're both passionate fans about the things we love, but came at it from different ages and genders and just outlooks on life, so that it was very much more inclusive than if I had wrote it myself. And that made it a much stronger book because she's a great writer. She's a smart young woman. And we decided to co-write it, and we wrote different chapters back and forth, which made it super cool. Many people who read it said that the idea of being inclusive of a new generation was really important.
I love that. And one of the things that you touched on there, that it struck me when I was reading through the book, that I really like this approach of not just talking about marketing in terms of things that have been tried and, this worked and this didn't, but you get pretty deep into neuroscience and trying to understand scientifically why is this effective versus that and so forth. Can you tell us about more how that all?
Yeah, and that was really important to us. From the beginning, we wanted to make sure that we were focused on understanding what's going on in the human brain when we become fans of something. And it turns out that it's rooted in neuroscience because our ancient brains are hardwired to want to be part of a tribe of like-minded people. Because when we're part of a tribe, we're safe and we're comfortable. It goes back tens of thousands of years. If we were, running around in the forest or on the plains and we were with our group, we were safe. But if we were alone or encountered another group, it was dangerous. And that's still a very strong feeling within humans. So that I mentioned I've been to 75 Grateful Dead concerts. So if I'm at a Grateful Dead concert, I'm safe and secure. I'm with my tribe. I can turn to anybody at that show and have a conversation. If I get into a crowded elevator, I feel uncomfortable. That's just a natural human reaction. And so one neuroscientist by the name of Edward T. Hall identified different levels of how close you get to other people. The furthest distance he identified was further than 12 feet, which he called public space. Our brains do not track people in our public space. We know they're there. We're aware they're in that public space, but we don't track them. Inside of 12 feet, between 12 feet and 4 feet, he called social space. Hence social distancing, which we're in the pandemic as we're recording this. So people, now we need to keep people in our social space, personal space inside of 4 feet. So cocktail party distance is inside of 4 feet, which is where the most powerful human connections happen. Because when you're at a cocktail party or you're at cocktail party distance, and you are with somebody who's a part of your tribe, very, very strong, powerful human emotions. And so this actually leads to a really interesting concept with marketing for right now, when you can't reach people within 4 feet because of the pandemic. And that's another form of neuroscience called mirror neurons. And mirror neurons are the part of our brains that fire when we see somebody doing something as if we are doing it ourselves. So let me demonstrate that for you right now, Martin. And I have a lemon and a slice of lemon here. And if I take a bite of this lemon, it's super powerful. It makes my eyes close up and water a little bit. My mouth is puckering up and my saliva glands are doing their thing. And it's a really powerful thing to bite into a lemon. And my brain is firing, but yours is too, right, Martin?
It is, yeah.
It's crazy, right?
It's remarkable.
It's remarkable. That's mirror neurons at work. And so here's how it becomes really important for business people to understand this concept of mirror neurons, especially right now during COVID, the era of COVID-19. So we're filming this right now using cameras. Both of us have done this as if we're approximately 4 feet from the people watching. So intellectually, each person, you, me, everybody else, knows they're not in the room together with us. They understand that. However, our mirror neurons are firing as if we're in the room together, 4 feet away, powerful personal space. And that is incredibly important. Now, the way we're filming this, you're doing the same thing I'm doing, it's natural. We don't have a bunch of gear and makeup and multiple lights and multiple cameras. We're talking to the camera, hence talking to the people who are watching, eyes on camera, not like down somewhere. Right. And this is people's brains processing exactly as if we were together in a room. This is why we feel we know a movie star, right? I know I've never met Renee Zellweger. I know that, but I feel like I have because I've watched her movies. Mm-hmm. And the same thing can work in anybody's business if you make effective use of video, natural ways of filming, looking at the camera, making eye contact with people on the other side, about 4 feet away, a natural, casual form of communications, not using big gobbledygook words like mission critical and best of breed and cutting edge and all that nonsense that seems to creep into corporate talk. And that is super powerful. You put those videos on your website and onto social media, and it's a really, really great way using the concepts of neuroscience to build fans.
That's really, it makes all kinds of sense. And so what I'm curious about from what you've studied, I tend to focus on introverted entrepreneurs and business owners. What can you share with that audience about everything that you've talked about in terms of this cocktail distance in the virtual world? How can an introverted business owner or entrepreneur kind of step into they're stepping out of their comfort zone and really putting themselves out there in a place that feels very vulnerable to them.
Yes. Well, I consider myself in that category, introverted, but I've filmed probably thousands of videos in my life, and I've gotten super comfortable with it. And I'm not nervous at all. I don't even think about it, looking into a camera lens and delivering a piece of content. And I think that this is a great way for those of us, me included, that aren't necessarily comfortable walking into a crowded room and meeting people for the first time and shaking their hands and building a rapport, when we can use video to do it. And this is the best time in human history to actually start to do that, because we are focused on these cameras probably for the next year. And yes, eventually we will emerge from the pandemic. But if you can build the base now for this kind of video, and you can build you can create a library of videos, have them on your website, have them in your social media feeds. It will be an important way once we emerge for people to get to know you now. And I can't tell you how many times, thousands probably of times, where I might be going to an in-person event to deliver a speech or whatever it might be. And I typically in the normal world speak 30 or 40 times a year and all over the world. People come up to me and goes, David, I feel like I know you. I've seen you on so many videos. I was like, thank you. And they come to me, they initiate the conversation. As an introvert, it's easy for me. I don't have to, oh my God, go up and say hello to someone. So I just think it's like magic. And you got to get used to talking to a camera, but you're by yourself, you're alone. You can film it 800 times and delete them all to get the one that finally works. 800 is a lot. Let's call it more like 80 times. That's even a lot. 40 times. And then finally get to the one that works, where you start to feel comfortable looking into that camera lens and just, getting your ideas out there.
Sounds like it's just like anything else that's new. You're going to be uncomfortable at first. You got to keep doing it, keep showing up. You need
Yeah.
consistency, and things will start to change for you.
And you can do what you're doing right now, go live, but you don't have to go live. And you can just film something and delete it, and film it and delete it, and film it and delete it till you get it till you feel like it's right. Going live has got its own little perils. There's no do-overs, but once you get comfortable, you can also go live.
Yep, that makes sense. So you've said, I wanted to ask you, you said that companies have to let go of their creation to grow fans. I'm curious to learn more about that.
It actually came from my love of the Grateful Dead. And my first show that I saw was when I was 17 years old, 42 years ago. And the Grateful Dead famously allowed fans to record their concerts. Fans could bring high-end recording gear into the shows and record the concerts. So in a sense, the Grateful Dead was giving up their creation of their music by allowing people to record it. And then they allowed people to share it. And originally it was cassette tapes. Later on it became MP3 files, but share it with whoever you want. The only rule they had was you're not allowed to sell that recording, but you could give it away, trade it, whatever you want with whoever you want. And that actually was a super important way for the Grateful Dead to build fans, because people like me became fans because we heard those cassette tapes in our friends' dorm rooms at college, or car stereos, or the basement rec room stereo system. And then after a while, you're like, this music's great. I can't wait to go see a show. And then we would spend money on concert tickets. And, I went last year to what's called Playing in the Sand in Mexico, which is Dead & Company, the newest iteration of the Grateful Dead, with John Mayer playing the Jerry Garcia role. I paid $5,000 for 3 tickets in the hotel room in Mexico to spend 3 nights with the Grateful Dead. I'm still spending money on the band. So when you build that fandom by giving up your creations and letting the fans take over, it builds a fandom that then pays dividends. In this case, they've been around for 55 years. 55 years of fandom, generating revenue for that band.
I would imagine that some folks in the corporate world probably have a misconception when they first hear this word fan as it pertains to big business. I wonder if you run across this. Do they feel like, well,
all the time,
if someone wears my logo on, then they must be a fan. But if I wear an Under Armour t-shirt, that doesn't make me, that's not what you're talking about here, is it?
Well, the thing about an Under Armour t-shirt is that is the product. The product is the t-shirt which has the logo on it. An outward manifestation of fandom is logo, things with logos on it. But I would say more than like an Under Armour t-shirt, because that they are a clothing company, is a software company whose fans wear a t-shirt with the logo on it. Or one of my favorite examples is I've seen more and more recently that people put stickers on the back of their notebook computers. And, we've all seen that. Maybe we do it, or I do it myself. I don't know if you do, Martin, but stickers on the back of the computer become a way for us to share what we're a fan of. And what's interesting to me is that it's not just rock bands. It's not just sports teams. It's all kinds of businesses. It's nonprofits, it's government agencies, it's B2B companies, it's software companies. It's insurance companies even. It's all kinds of organizations that people become a fan of. People push back a lot and say, okay, I understand fandom, like you said, with something like Under Armour, they're a consumer brand, but I'm a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, a B2B software company CEO. We don't have fans. Well, maybe you don't have fans now, but every organization can have fans. And I think part of the pushback is this focus on quarterly profits that unfortunately the investment world and business schools have tended to teach. And if you're focused exclusively on this quarter's profit, it's unlikely you're building for next year and the next decade by building fans right now. But if you have the luxury of being able to build fans now, you'll be able to survive for a super long time. And, people, again, they'll push back, oh, but we can't grow fans. We found a government agency that has over 50 million fans. You can be walking down any street in the world and not be surprised if somebody approaches you wearing a t-shirt with a NASA logo on it. NASA is a government agency with 50 million fans. And I use 50 million because that's how many people follow their Instagram feed. We found an insurance company called Hagerty Insurance. They do classic car auto insurance. And they have over 1 million fans, have become the #1 classic car auto insurance company in the entire planet, because they didn't focus on becoming a low-cost provider. They focused on building fans. And I interviewed McKeel Hagerty, the entrepreneurial owner of Hagerty Insurance, several times. And what he told me is, David, what we did was we just went out and focused on building fans first. They go to classic car shows all over the country. They set up a booth. They provide education on all things classic car. They realized after a while that they had a database of the valuations of classic cars that was probably the best in the world, because it was real data, the amount of money people were insuring their cars as how much they were worth. So they made that database freely available, and people can go and see how much their classic car is worth. They have a YouTube channel with over 1 million subscribers. They have a drivers club with over 650,000 members. They are an insurance company, a category of product that everybody hates, and they have over 1 million fans.
That's amazing. That's incredible. And so they're giving something and asking for nothing in return. And how important is that to give to the prospect or the customer, whether or not they ever become a customer? How important is that?
Well, when we were doing the research for Fanocracy, I'll hold up the book cover again. Reiko and I identified 9 different ways that organizations can build fans. And we've touched on a couple of them. We touched on the idea of physical proximity and virtual proximity. And we touched on this idea of giving away something with no expectation of anything in return, like the Grateful Dead and like Hagerty. That's only 2 of these 9 other ways that you can reach people. And to say that it's important, sure, it's important, but it's one of a handful of ways that you can build fans. And there's other ways as well. And the more of these different ways that you can build into your business, the more likely you are to build fans. Another one of the ways that we found to be very important is the idea of understanding that when you truly focus on your buyers and their needs, rather than just talking about your products and services, you're much more likely to be successful. And Reiko wrote that particular chapter, and she just came at it from a super interesting perspective, because during the entire time that we were researching the book, she was in medical school. And she's written several books, and she's totally a writer. And what she realized through her undergraduate degree and her medical school education is the incredible importance of understanding story when talking to patients about their illness. And the vast majority of healthcare, the healthcare system, at least in our country, is built around understanding symptoms and then applying those symptoms to some kind of algorithm that generates what it is that's likely to be wrong with the person. That, and if you look at it as a parallel, is a lot of the ways that social networks and Google and other things are applied to marketing. You go on Facebook or Google or whatever, and there's an algorithm that's applied that puts you into a box and then serves up ads based on who they think you are. So that's an algorithm approach to medicine and an algorithm approach to marketing. What Reiko became so fascinated with is a concept called narrative medicine. Narrative medicine is when you understand the patient's story, not just their symptoms. And then after you understand their story, how does that then change the way that you deliver healthcare to that patient? And then we applied these ideas to all kinds of companies. How do you understand the story of both a typical customer as well as a specific customer? And how does that change the way that you relate to that customer and market your products and services to them? And so that's another of these ideas for how you can grow fans. And I just think it's fascinating that it comes out of this idea of narrative medicine, which Reiko has now become a recognized expert in. She actually teaches narrative medicine at Boston University School of Medicine now, because it's something that is quite new and quite sort of cutting edge, this idea of understanding a patient's narrative to give better healthcare to them.
That is absolutely fascinating, and it sounds like there's plenty of fodder for more books to come.
I hope so.
That's wonderful. I would love to keep chatting, but I know you've got to run. I want to thank you, David, for taking time out of your day today. This has been fantastic. Any closing thoughts before we let you go?
Yeah, the most surprising thing we learned is the importance of passion. Passion is infectious. People are attracted to businesses and the people in those businesses that have passion. So one of the things that all of us can do right now is showcase our passion to the world, our business's passion and the people in our business's passion and our own personal passions, because passion is infectious. And it sure beats, chasing quarterly numbers and marketing the way everybody else does.
I love it. It's wonderful. Thank you so much, David Meerman Scott. Please pick up Fanocracy, Turning Fans into Customers and Customers into Fans. This has been a lot of value, just dropping value bomb after value bomb. So thank you, David. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Martin. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, we'll see you next time on Business Masters Live.